Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
See, if you take 5 minutes to respond, then I am in trouble. Okay? So, okay then. Yeah, let me start from where I left off last time. What we were doing was exact differentials. You remember? Do you remember that we were doing exact differentials? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you people respond? You know, you people are absolutely takes 5 minutes for you to respond. Keep your microphones unmuted if you want. I don't care. Okay, what we were doing was we were trying to look at these kinds of integrals around a path of this vector field started with dr, and this was equal to integral c fx dx plus fy dy plus fz dz. Okay, now if this has to be independent of path, what it requires is the following. That is, if we can write it as, say, some integral over c dg, then we know that is over c dg and it is from the point A to some point B. Then g is equal to, then the integral is equal to, so let me call this integral I. Then what we will have is I is equal to g of B minus g of A. Okay, so it will be the difference between the two, and so it does not depend upon the path. It only depends upon the initial and final points. And what we will do is we will see under what conditions you can write it this way. So for something to be an exact differential, what we have is we have g will be a function of x comma y comma z, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean I'm not unable to hear you people immediately. Okay, g of x comma y comma z, so that when I take dg, the total differential, what is this equal to? Del g by del x. Have you people done this?
Yes.
Partial
Yes.
derivatives.
These are partial derivatives, and this is the way to get the total differential of a quantity g. Okay, so this is of course calculated when y and z are constant, and this is calculated when x and z are constant, and this is calculated when x and y are constant. Okay, so now this is equal to f of x dx plus f of y dy plus f of z dz. So if that should be equal to this, only if, say, I take a second differentials. Okay, so because f is continuous. Okay, let me start by first defining it. F is continuous. So fx, fy, fz are defined. And let us assume that these are all, and assume these are also continuous. Assume these are continuous functions. What we will get is the following. So del g by del x is equal to fx. Del g by del y is equal to fy. Del g by del z is equal to fz. So if this condition is satisfied, then what we will have is you take del square g by del y del x must be equal to del square g by del x del y. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Because it does not matter in what way you have, in what order you take the differentiation, partial differentiation. Okay, it only depends upon the point. And similarly, I have the condition del squared g by del z del x is equal to del squared g by del x del z, and we also have del squared g by del y del z equal to del squared g by del z del y. Okay, so what it means is the following. For this to be the case, so if I write some integral f dot dr as equal to fx dx plus fy dy plus fz dz, this differential, this integrand is an exact differential only if del fx by del y is equal to del fx del fy by del x, because fx in that case fx is equal to del g by del x and fy is equal to del g by del y, right? And similarly, if del fx by del z is equal to del fz by del x, it means that you have fx is equal to del g by del x and fz is equal to del g by del z, and the order in which you have taken the second differential does not matter when you take del by del z fx equal to del by del x fz. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so similarly I will have del by del x del z of fy is equal to del by del y of fz. So if this happens, then we know that fx dx plus fy dy plus fz plus fz dz can be written as some dg. Okay, because I know that then in that case the first differential of g with respect to x will be fx. First differential of g with respect to y is fy, and that with respect to z is fz, because when I take the second differentials, then it satisfies the condition that I have put forth above. Okay, so if I am given an integrand, okay, which is given by some fx dx plus fy dy plus fz dz, I can check if it is an exact differential. By differentiating coefficients dx, dy, dz with respect to y comma z, comma x comma z, comma x comma y respectively. Okay, and it's equal only if fxy is equal to fyx, okay, and fxz is equal to fzx, and fyz is equal to fzy. Okay, which means when you differentiate the coefficient of z with respect to y and the coefficient of y with respect to z, then the resulting functions must be equal. And the same thing. So because when I have two subscripts against f, it means that I have differentiated g with respect to two variables, which are the two subscripts. Okay. For example, Fij means L squared g by Lxi Lxj xi comma I equal to 1 to 3 corresponds to x, y, z. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's only one person responding, so one person is clear. Others are sleeping, I guess. I can't make out. Are the others sleeping? So no response, which means they must be sleeping. Am I right? I think from now on you must turn on your videos also. Hello?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
I mean, you people are lifeless, not responding. I don't understand why. You know, as such, online classes are difficult, and if you don't respond also, then it's as good as talking to the wall. Okay, can I continue from here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Only 4 people are here, so that's what it is. Okay, so now let me see, apply it to thermodynamics. Okay, see, the thermodynamic state functions are exact differentials, right?
Yes, sir.
That means if I take a thermodynamic variable like a temperature, and I in the space of say for example pressure, temperature, volume, I integrate from point A to point B, then what I will get is Tb minus Ta, the difference in temperature at the 2 points. And it does not depend upon what is the path you have taken to find out the difference in temperature. And similarly in mechanics, okay, what is the exact differential?
Position.
Mechanics, position, any other thing related to energy?
Conservative fields.
Conservative fields, example,
Gravitational field.
gravitational field. And similarly, Coulomb fields. Right? In gravitational fields, it is some constant by r squared is the force. Okay, and C by R is the potential. Call it C prime because we are going to integrate it. Similarly, in this thing, electric fields, the force is given by some C by R squared, and potential energy is given by some C prime by R. So what I want you to show is that the function 1 by R, when differentiated, gives the force along any direction, or show that this thing, the function 1 by R squared is an exact differential. 1 by R squared into dr is or R by R cubed. r by r cubed into dr is an exact differential. Lost the previous one for some reason. So I have shown that exact differentials. So you have to show that 1 by r squared times dr. It's r, or I can write it in the following fashion. 1 by r divided by r cubed dot dr is an exact differential. Okay, now let me come back to thermodynamics. So in thermodynamics, for example, I can write down the internal energy change U as equal to Q minus PdV, right? Q is a heat, or let me just write it as Q minus W to begin with. Heat supplied to the system and W is the work done by the system. Okay, so Q minus W is this one. So supposing we have a reversible process. Let us say an expansion. Okay, so I can write down Q reversible as equal to S times dt, or dq reversible is equal to S times dt. Rather T times ds, sorry. What's the definition of entropy? ds is equal to dq reversible by T. Have you come across this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Why do I have to specify that it is reversible?
Sir,
In the
because in Carnot, sir, it is reversible.
other.
No, is it because it is Carnot cycle, or in some other cycle it need not be reversible?
Hmm. Sir, instead of dq, we generally like del q, na, because q is not a state function.
So what does it mean if it is not a state function? Anybody else? What is it? What does it mean when you say it's not a state function?
If we go to another path, the amount will be changed.
So that's the reason why you have to specify the path. The path is a reversible path that I have said. Okay.
Yeah.
That is why I have to specify path whenever I specify anything to do with non-state functions. Okay. And the reversible work done in expansion is PdV. Okay. P is the pressure against which we are expanding the volume reversibly, so that U and V is the volume. So I can write down U reversible as equal to TdS minus PdV, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, is it necessary to say it is du reversible?
No.
No, because u is a state function. Du or change in u is path independent. So if it is path independent, then I can in general write du is equal to TDS minus PDV. Okay. Now, u is a state function. So, du is an exact differential, right?
Yes, sir.
So, how do you check that du is an exact differential? What is the condition?
Del T by del S equals del P by
Minus del.
No, del T by
del T. Del T by del P.
del T by what?
Del V.
Del U.
Del V. Under constant
Yes.
entropy.
Yes.
So this should be equal to
Del P by del X.
Del S at constant T.
equal to del P by
Del S.
del T at constant entropy.
Del P by
Del
del.
S.
Del P by del S, sorry.
Hmm.
Del P by del S at constant volume.
Constant.
Because V and S are the two variables. Okay, so this is one of the Maxwell relations. I can also derive one more Maxwell relation, okay? Just to show you, okay? Now let us see what is the this thing, equation for Gibbs free energy, what is the definition?
H minus TS.
H minus Ts, good. So what is DAG equal to?
DH minus TDS.
And
Minus SDT.
because you have to do the differentiation with respect to both of them, right? And what is H equal to?
U plus PV.
Yeah, U plus PV. So what is DH equal to?
DU plus PDV plus DDP.
So I can substitute for DG, right?
Yes, sir.
DU plus PDV plus VDP minus TDS minus SDT. So what was the relationship that we had earlier? DU is equal to?
Minus PDV.
Huh? TDS minus
Yes.
PV. Therefore, DG is equal to
VDP
VDP
minus S.
SDT. So now what should be the, now G is an exact differential or DG is an exact differential. So what is the condition that we have if it has to be an exact differential?
Del V del
Del V
T at
upon del T equals negative del S
Is it constant
upon
pressure
del P.
del P at
minus
constant.
del S upon
Del P constant V.
temperature,
Temperature.
right? This is another Maxwell's relation. So you can get many different Maxwell's relations like this, which are useful in thermodynamics. Okay, you had learned it this way, or when you learned Maxwell relations, or how did you obtain the Maxwell relations? Are you people there?
Yes, sir.
I asked a question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, like this only.
Yes,
Like
sir.
this one. Okay. Okay, now let me go to another topic, which is basically, I'm given a scalar field, okay? And the scalar field is f of x comma y comma z, which means that for every position vector r, equal to xi1 plus yi2 zi3, we get a scalar value. Okay, and that is given by f of r. Now, when you have a function like this, then the differential of f depends not only on the point at which you are calculating, calculate the differential, but also on the direction. Okay, for example, let me take a two-dimensional example. Okay, in a two-dimensional example, supposing I have a function which goes as this way. Okay, okay, so this is like a saddle in the sense that in the z plane it is going up like this, and in the xy in the yz plane it is showing a minima here, but in the this thing xz plane it is showing a maximum. Do you understand this? Okay, so let me see whether I can make a better drawing. So I have something that is going like this, and something else that is going up. Okay, so in the xy plane, when you are actually going around, you see a maximum in z, and in the this thing yz plane, you will see a minimum. In the xz plane, you'll see a maximum, and in the yz plane, you see a minimum. So the differential depends on the direction. Yes or no? Do you understand it?
Yes.
Okay, so you have looked at, for example, the Mexican hat, right? Okay. So that kind of potentials come from here. Okay, now having said this, let us see, does it mean we have to calculate the differential for every direction independently? That means if I have a function which is going around like this, so let us say there's a surface and I'm looking at a point here, then should I calculate the differential in this direction or in this direction, and so forth? Should I calculate every time given the direction, or is there a way out of it? Because this implies that you have to have infinite number of differentials, right? Because you have infinite number of directions going out through a point. So do you really need to calculate infinite number of differentials, or is there a way around it? Let us see what happens. So let us look at this function f of x comma y comma z. And let us say that I have a surface like this and have a point P, and I want to find out what the differential is around the point, along the direction B. And let us say that the points along the direction B, so this is called B naught. Okay, and I want to find out B naught or R naught. General or R naught, RP, let us say. So I want to go in this direction, so I'll have to keep choosing points Q here and I have to differentiate it, right? So what it means is the following. That is, I have to find out delta F is equal to F at P minus F at Q divided by the length of the arc delta S. Okay, so this is actually what? So delta F is equal to limit delta S tending to 0, F of P minus F of P plus S times P. Let me not call it delta S, let me call it S. It's consistent. So what I'm doing here is that I take this point P and I move along the straight line. Okay. And how do I move along the straight line? By changing a parameter S, that is, I'm multiplying by a small parameter S into the vector B and adding to the position vector RP. Okay, so the point Q is actually RP plus SB. Okay, any questions so far? Divided by
S. Why do we divide by S?
Because there's a differential, isn't it? How much further you have gone away from the point. See, my vector, the position vector Q is given by position vector RP plus S times B, right? So you want that position vector point Q to be approaching point P, right? And how does it approach the point P? As S tends to 0. Do you follow?
Sir, that would be del F, del S, but here it is written as delta F.
No, I have written it as this again. See, I have written down as FP minus FQ, and S is the distance between the points P and Q if you want. Okay, the distance between points P and Q going to 0, right? So the distance between point P and Q goes as S times, let us say B is a unit vector. Okay, so let me take B to be a unit vector. Now, does it make sense to you?
I could not understand why we are dividing by S.
What is the differential? F of
you are
X plus B delta X minus F of X divided by delta X is the differential, right?
That is delta F by delta X.
This is delta F by delta X. This is for change along the X direction, right?
Yes, sir.
So supposing I want to change along any direction, then what I'm going to do is F of R plus delta R minus F of R divided by delta R, limit delta R tending to 0. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So this should be the differential, right? So what is delta R? Delta R is nothing but S. Because B is a unit vector. Okay, P minus Q is just S times B. Okay, and the length of B is 1, so it is just S. Is it clear now? Oh, okay.
The
On the left
right
hand side, okay. I understand your problem. Along the vector B. Okay, so this is what I showed it. Along the direction B. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because earlier I had taken it as delta F. Okay, so I have to divide it by the distance between the points and take the limit of the distance between the points over to 0. Okay, so if I did that, what will happen is this is going to be delta F by delta S. So F is what? F is a function of x comma y comma z. Okay, this is equal to F of x of S because I'm defining the direction in which it is changing, y of S, z of S. Okay, so that I have delta F by delta S is equal to del F by del X into dx by ds. There's a chain rule into dy by ds plus del F by del Z into dz by ds. Is this okay?
Sir, how the x, y, and z became function of s?
Because when I want to define the direction, okay, if the way coordinates move along B, okay, is given by f of say P naught, P, right? Point P plus S times B, that's equal to f of xp plus sx plus, sorry, comma yp plus sy, comma zp plus sz. That's how the points move along the line, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you have a point, P here, okay, and given by the vector rp is given by xpi1 plus ypi2 plus zpi3. Then if you want to move in the direction of B, okay, then B is defined by some S of this thing I1 plus S of I2 plus S of I3. Okay, then we have this. Okay, so it's actually Sx times along this thing B. Okay, that's how the vector is changing, because B is nothing but B is equal to some S times the direction of the vector. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So you are moving along this line. Okay, to move along this line, you are given the vector B. Okay, B is some B changes along this line as x of S times I1 plus x of S times I2 plus y of S times I2 plus z of S times I3 along this line. Okay, the line B is actually given by S of some function of some. Okay, so that's how it's going to be moving when you want to change. So because that is the equation for that line which is moving in the direction from P to Q. Any questions? No? So what it means is that I can write down df by ds as equal to del f by del x times I1 plus del f by del y I2 plus del f by del z I3 dot, okay, dx by ds times I1 plus dy by ds times I2 plus dz by ds times I3. Okay, if I take a dot product, I'll get exactly this, right?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it clear? If you take the dot product between these two, then what you will get is this one. This is identical to what you get here. Okay? Any
Yes, sir.
questions? So, so what does it mean? So let us see what is dx by ds times I1 plus dy by ds times I2 plus dz by ds times I3, given that the vector rs is equal to r naught plus sb. Or rp plus sb. Okay, so or rs or rq, whatever you want to take. Do you see that if you are going along this path, then you are just multiplying the vector b by a constant s and then adding it, right? So what does it mean? It means that dx by ds I1 plus dy by ds I2 plus dz by ds I3 is actually equal to b, right? Because when you take this one and differentiate with respect to s, it's linear in s, so it just goes away and what you get is b. Okay, so df by ds is equal to dx, del f by del x I1 plus del f by del y I2 plus del f by del z I3 dot b, right?
So could you explain once again how you got the dx by ds I bar I1 I2 equals b cap?
Okay. Now I have a point P here, right? And I am moving in the direction of Q along B, right? This B is actually a unit vector. So what does it mean? It
Yes,
means
sir. Got it. Okay.
the coordinates will be RP plus SB, right? The coordinate Q is equal to RP plus SB, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is what I have for the coordinates. Now, when I differentiate, when I want to get the differential of that vector R, which is equal to RP plus SB with respect to the coordinates, then what I get is this quantity. I have to differentiate this quantity. So when I differentiate that, I just get S times B, because you know what we have here is B is nothing but some S times Sx of I plus x of S times I plus y of S times I2 plus Z of S times I3 is B. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Because all I'm taking is B plus SB, and I'm going to differentiate with respect to the coordinates. When I differentiate it with respect to the coordinates, then I'll get just B. Okay, so if you want, I can write it a little more in detail. This I can write it as XB plus S times some X of B, which is for that quantity, plus some I1 plus YP plus Y of B times I2 plus ZP plus Z of B times I3. Just 1 second. Without this. That is correct. Okay, so there is an S here because I'm scaling the vector B by that quantity, because B is given by X of B times I1. Okay, because B is given by X of B times I1 plus Y of B times I2 plus Z of B times I3. Okay, and S times B is given by S multiplied by B. Okay, any questions? Is that quite clear? Because see, the
Yes.
line B is actually specified by XB, YB, and ZB. Okay, and the fraction of line B length is actually S times XB, S times B, and that S is what you are putting to 0. Any
Sir,
questions?
but-
Is it clear?
Sir, but you said that V is a unit vector, so how can we have
A unit
coefficient
vector-
as V?
No, unit vector just means that, when I say B is equal to B divided by length of B. Okay.
Okay.
So B still can be having dependence on X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
The direction, right? Only the length is normalized. Because supposing you take along X, okay, B is along X, okay, then SB is nothing but equal to B times X. Okay, unit vector along X. Okay, so that is B times I1. Okay, any questions? Any other? Do you people follow it?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
only
sir.
hear one voice. Others are all sleeping or they have turned off. They just switched on the laptop and walked away, went off.
No, sir.
Huh? Yeah, only 2 people are there.
No, sir.
Huh? Because I can't see you, I can't listen, I don't hear you. How do I know you are there? Unless you, speak up. Are you people there?
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's becoming very difficult for me because there's no interaction. Okay, so that being the case, I can say that this quantity that I have I can call this a gradient of f. del of f, it's called, okay? Del f, actually, del f by del x, 1, del f by del y, I2, plus del f by del z, that's I3, and the differential df by ds along any direction is equal to del f dot b, where b is the unit vector in the desired direction. Okay, do you understand now?
Sir, what is direction of grad f?
I have defined what is grad f here. Okay, so because I'm taking two dot products here. Okay, so this I can call it as grad f dot b. Okay, because I showed you that df by ds is actually given by this quantity. Df by ds is given by this quantity. So it's as if del f by del x is the ith component multiplied by dx by ds, which is again the ith component. So it is like taking dot products. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let us go to the more details.
Could you
about
scroll
what
up a
is grad.
little bit? I was
Huh?
not able to. Could you scroll up a little bit? I was not able to write. Thanks, sir.
Okay. So now what are the properties of grad f? Okay, just because it means it is looking like a vector, does it mean a vector? So the question is it a vector? So what defines a vector?
Magnitude, direction.
Direction and magnitude, and it should not depend upon the coordinate system, independent of coordinate system. So supposing I make a rotation of the coordinate system, the vector should not change. The vector should stay as it is, only its components will change. Components in a new coordinate system will be different from the components in the old coordinate system, but the vector will stay where it is. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Neither the dimension of the vector, nor there is neither the length of the vector, nor the direction of the vector will change when you change the coordinate system. Well, in this case, let us see what happens. We know that we are differentiating at the point P. Point P in a given direction. Okay. Now, neither the point P will change, nor the direction when the coordinate system is transformed. So what we mean by that is the following. That is, if I have one coordinate system which is looking like this, I have a surface like this, and I have a point P, and I am differentiating along this direction P, then if this is I1, I2, I3, supposing I rotate it, to some other position, I1 prime, 2 prime, I3 prime. See, the point does not change. The point P remains the same in the new, only the projection of the point, the coordinates of the point RP on these will change. Okay, neither the direction of B will change. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So the point does not change, so the point at which you are differentiating is the same. So the differential should not change also, as long as the direction is also the same. Okay, so this implies that grad f is not dependent on coordinate system. And then we said that df by ds is equal to grad f dot b is the unit vector. Let me take the unit vector. Grad f dot b, where b is the direction in which I'm differentiating. Okay, so now if this, I can actually write it as grad f norm b, length of the vector b times cos gamma. Gamma is the angle between grad f and b. Right, because that's what we mean by dot product. I don't have to write double lines. And this is equal to delta f cos gamma when b is in, because modulus b is equal to 1. Okay, so the magnitude of delta f is the maximum value df by ds can take in any unit direction. I have made it unit direction because I don't want the norm of b to come into picture. That means what I have is a surface here, a point here. So I differentiate in different directions. And the direction in which delta f is maximum, or rather not delta, let me call it del f dot b is maximum, is the direction of grad f. Okay, any questions? Because cos gamma is going to be 0 when b is along grad f. Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, so now in that case, I have
Could you explain the statement? The magnitude of del f is the maximum value del f df by
Yeah.
ds.
Yeah, you see, when I take a unit vector b, df by ds is given by grad f dot b times cos gamma. Right? And grad f is a vector. Okay, and gamma is the angle between the vector grad f and b.
Yes.
Right? And what is the maximum value cos gamma can take?
1.
1. So when is it 1?
When the angle is 0 between b and del f.
Yeah, which means del f has the direction of b, where it is got the maximum value.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay?
Okay, sir. Yes.
Okay, so that's how you define the direction. Okay, and in order to know the direction a little bit better, okay, let us look at what are called level surfaces. Okay, so we have the scalar field f of x comma y comma z. Okay, so let there be a surface in this scalar field defined by, how do you define a surface? F of x, y, z must be a constant. All points x, y, z, which give me the same constant value when plugged into the function f of x comma y comma z, which is a constant value c, then the assembly of all these points x, y, z corresponds to a surface. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now consider a curve passing through the point P, okay, on the surface. On the surface, okay, this curve should this curve lies on the surface, right? Because it's a curve that is on the surface, so this curve lies on the surface. Therefore, f is so. Therefore, we have the points on the curve xs1 plus ys I2 plus zs I3 satisfy f of x of s comma y of s comma z of s equal to c. Is this clear?
Sir, all the points of the curve lie on the surface.
Correct. So I have taken a surface, okay, and I have put a curve on this passing through the point P. And this curve is, say, let us say C1. And C1 is defined by xs I1, ys I2 plus zs I3. Okay, because that is the equation of the curve C1. Okay, but if this curve C1 has to lie on the surface f of x comma s, y of s comma z of s comma s equal to c, then every point must satisfy this equation. Okay, which means when I substitute x by xs, y by ys, and z by zs, then this equation should be satisfied. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
For everybody?
Yes, sir.
No, if
Yes,
it
sir.
is not clear, if I don't hear you people, I'll just wind up the
Yes,
class
sir.
and stop teaching this course. I'm telling you seriously. Because unless you people respond, I'm going to close down the course and I will say that, I will just wash my hands of it. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
If only 3 voices I hear, there's no way of ensuring that you people are there. You may be in outer space for all I care.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
now,
sir.
now let us see. Let me differentiate this f of x comma s, y of s, z of s with respect to s. What does this give me? What is the value of this?
0.
Yeah, because
Zero.
this is a constant, right? And what is the left hand side? Is del f by del x, dx by ds, plus del f by del y, dy by ds, plus del f by del z, dz by ds is equal to 0, right? Am I right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Or this is equal to grad f times r prime is equal to 0. R prime is the differential of the curve at the point P. Right? What is the direction of r prime?
Perpendicular.
Tangent.
Which is correct, tangent or perpendicular?
Tangent.
Tangent is
Perpendicular.
correct. Okay, because I taught long back that this thing the r dot r is equal to constant. So r prime dot r is equal to 0, or r prime is tangent to C, curve C. Okay, so it is a tangent. Okay, now what I have done is I have taken one curve. I can take another curve which goes through this, and a third curve that goes through this. Okay, so the grad f is perpendicular to all tangents passing through the point P. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what it means is that there is a plane, okay, and all these tangents lie in this plane, okay. So grad f is perpendicular to the tangent plane at P. Okay, so you can think of the surface, okay, something like this, and then you have a tangent plane at this point, okay, where all the tangents to the surface are going through. Okay, and the direction of grad f is perpendicular to this. Okay, and one more interesting thing that you should know about this is the following. That is, I have taken f of x comma y comma z is equal to C as a surface, right? So I can change the value of C right? So initially, for example, I can take the following: x squared plus y squared plus z squared equal to 10. Then I change the value to x squared plus y squared plus z squared is equal to 20. Okay, so when it is 10, it is perpendicular to the surface of the circle, right? With this one. And when it is 20, it's again perpendicular to the surface of the circle, which means that if a sphere, which means the following, that is, I have one sphere here, the sphere here, and a third sphere here. So at the point P, okay, the direction is perpendicular to all the tangent planes which intersect, okay, which are at that point P. Okay, so f of x comma y comma z equal to C with C varying leads to what are called level surfaces. So this is one level surface, this is another level surface, a third level surface, and you see that the direction of grad f is perpendicular to all the level surfaces. Any questions?
So here P also changes now for
Yeah, but
every.
P changes, no question about that one. Okay, but that P is actually going through a particular, when I take the grad f, okay, so the point P may change, but it will always correspond to the gradient will correspond to the same direction as long as x, y, z are the same. Okay, so let me see. Let me try to explain it in more detail. Okay, so in one case, I have x squared plus y squared plus z squared equal to 10. Okay, and I have got some particular point P on this one. Okay, and in the second case, I have a different value of this thing x squared plus y squared plus z squared equal to P. I have another value of P, let us say. But what I'm saying is that the moment you take this tangent, I mean this grad f, and you extend it through the from the origin all the way through. Okay, so all the surfaces that intersect this grad f intersect at right angles. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So which means the following, that is the point P is changing in a constant way. Okay, so I have one surface here, third surface here, okay, third surface here. Okay, all these are surfaces. At one particular point, you draw the get a grad f. Okay, this grad f, if you extend it down to the origin, okay, it intersects these other surfaces at right angles. Okay, the point at which it intersects, the tangent plane to that surface at that point is going to be perpendicular to grad f. Okay, so I can tell you one particular example where it need not be the case. Okay, so let us take a different example. Okay, so supposing they are not level surfaces. So one surface is like this and another surface is like this. Okay, so if I take a grad f at this point, okay, it is perpendicular to this level plane, but when it comes here, it won't be perpendicular because the level surface will be like this. The tangent plane will be like this because this surface is not parallel to the old surface. Do you follow? Okay,
Yes.
so if this is,
Yes, sir.
Sir, how are these two surfaces level surfaces?
these are level surfaces because all that you need to do is if you change the value of C, the surfaces become new surfaces which are parallel to the old surfaces.
Okay,
Because all these surfaces are parallel, right?
yes. But because of the
Okay.
structure of the surface, it will not be perpendicular, the grad f.
The grad, if the surfaces are not level, then it will not be perpendicular to the level surfaces that you have. Because in one case, it will intersect at this point. Okay. Okay. In another case, it will intersect at a different point. Okay.
Yes.
the tangent plane here is like this. The tangent plane here is like this. Okay. So the two tangent planes are different. Okay. So this vector grad f is not perpendicular to the tangent plane here because it's not a level surface.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. I mean, this is used, for example, in obtaining things like density of states. So when you want to find out density of states, okay, in solids, okay, have you people done anything about energy bands?
So
Yes, sir.
Energy band theory. Energy is a function of the vectors, the k vectors, and it's given by kx, ky, kz. Am I right?
sir,
No, sir.
We
Yeah.
haven't done this, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, then in that case, giving you an introduction to this will be time consuming. Okay, anyway, let me make it much simpler. Okay, so you know how the free electron energy surfaces are, right? Free electron constant energy surface. Do you know this? What is the energy of a free electron? Have you done this anywhere in quantum mechanics?
no, sir.
You have not studied plane waves.
No, sir.
You have studied particle in a box,
Yeah.
particle in a three-dimensional box.
Yes, sir. Done.
Okay. In a particle in a three-dimensional box, what is the energy given by?
H square by 8 m
H square by 8
in-
ml
in-
square. N square by.
Am I right? So
Yes,
if it's a
sir.
cubic
Yes, sir.
box, if it is cubic, this will be h cross squared by 8 ml squared into nx squared plus ny squared plus nz squared. Right? So this actually you can write as h squared. No, it's not h cross squared, sorry. So this you can actually write as h cross squared by 2m to nx by 2 pi L okay. So nx, ny, nz take integer values.
तो 2 pi nx by L नहीं होगा.
No, it will just cancel. Oh, no, sorry, 2 pi nx. You are right. Thanks for correcting. Okay. Right. So this quantity 2 pi nx by L is called kx. Okay. So you can actually write down energy as equal to h cross squared by 2m times kx squared plus ky squared plus kz squared. Similarly, ky kz. Or this is h cross squared by 2m times k squared. So which means that if I take kx, ky, kz, in this, if you give me a constant energy, energy E, constant energy surfaces, or surfaces of a sphere. Do you understand? What is this? This is nothing but equation to a circle sphere, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
if I keep changing E, the sphere keeps changing. Okay. So I have E here. Then if I have x1, this E plus E, right? So this difference is dk. Okay. Now, you know, every nx, ny, nz value occupies a space of 8 pi cubed upon L cubed. Right? Because, you know, if I look at the nx, ny values on a lattice, let me take a squared lattice just for simplicity. Okay. So when nx equal to 0, ny equal to 0, it is somewhere here. So this is 0, 0, this is 1, 0, etc. Then this is 0, comma y, x, comma ny. Okay. So each one has a length 1 by 2 or 2 pi by L. Okay. So when you have a simple cube, with edges 2 pi by L, okay. So how many points are there per cube? When you have a simple cubic structure, every lattice point is shared by how many cubes?
8.
8 cubes, right? And how many points are there? So when you have 8 points, so the number of points per cube is how many?
1.
Okay. Exactly the same thing. So allowed value of nx, ny, nz per volume 8 pi cube by L cube is 1. Okay. So if we want to know what is called density of states, have you heard of the term density of states?
Sir.
Yes or no?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. So density of states is number of energy levels. See, in a solid, you have an Avogadro number of atoms, right? And so you have an Avogadro number of energy levels for, say, for example, the 1s orbital or the 2s orbital, because you have an Avogadro number of bonding and anti-bonding orbitals. Do you understand that? When you have
Could you
two
explain?
hydrogen atoms,
Sir,
when you
could
have-
you
when you have two hydrogen atoms, you have one bonding molecular orbital and anti-bonding molecular orbital. When you have three hydrogen atoms in a chain, you have one bonding molecular operator, one non-bonding, one anti-bonding. When you have 4, similarly you have 4 molecular operators. So when you have n number of atoms, which is like Avogadro number, you have an Avogadro number of molecular orbitals. And these are over a small energy range of about a few electron volts. Okay. So at every energy, you have a very large number of states. Okay. Just as you define density of a population in a country. Okay. Similarly, you can define a density of number of states per unit energy in a particular, at a particular energy. Okay. Number of states of N of E at an energy. Okay. Divided by. So it basically, let me write down the expression then you will know. Number of states between energies E and D plus DE. Limit DE tending to 0. This is called the density of states. Okay, if you want to calculate the density of states, okay, you have to look at the level surfaces corresponding to constant energy E and D plus delta E. Okay, when you take these two level surfaces, you want to know how many states are there between these two level surfaces. To know that, you must know the volume in the shell. Number of states between E, D plus DE is equal to volume of the shell divided by volume per state. Okay, and volume per state is 2 pi cube by L. Volume of the shell is, you can write it as this thing 4 pi k squared dk, and volume per shell is 8 pi cube by V. So this you will get as number of states is going to be Ne plus De plus Ne is equal to V by 8 pi cubed integral 4 pi k squared dk for a free electron. Okay, for a simple surface, for a non-spherical surface, the volume is given by. So if you have some level surfaces which are non-spherical, then this volume is given by surface area ds times, so you have to take some area ds times the perpendicular distance dk perpendicular into V by 8 pi cubed. Okay, and how do you get dk perpendicular? So I have ek plus dk is equal to E of k plus dk perpendicular grad E at that point. Right, because grad E is going to be the differential. This is the Taylor series expansion. Okay. So since this is a Taylor series expansion, so what you have is E of k plus dk minus E of k divided by grad ke is equal to dk perpendicular. Okay, so you will have n of E plus d.
ये सब कुछ देख के मुझे लगता है मैं फेल होने वाला हूँ.
Can you speak English? What is it?
Sir, how did you get the E k plus dk equals ek plus dk del ke?
What is the this thing? Taylor series expansion for f of x plus dx. Right? And this is a three-dimensional function. So instead of df by dx, I have grad ke, which is a perpendicular direction. So the expansion is around dk perpendicular.
Okay,
So,
sir.
so why you neglected the other terms?
Yeah, because I'm taking very small, dk is small or de is small. So d squared, dk squared is can be neglected. That's a usual thing in differential calculus.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is equal to v by 8 pi cube into integral ds dk into ds de by grad ke. So, and d of e is equal to n of e plus de minus n of e divided by de is equal to v by 8 pi cubed integral ds by grad ke. So this is an expression that is used for density of states in almost in solid state physics. Okay, so this is where you see that you have to use a gradient. And the property that the gradient is perpendicular to the level surface. Because in order to get the volume, I have to take the area of the surface multiplied by dk perpendicular. And dk perpendicular I could get from the gradient. Okay, so if I know the energy band description of the picture of the solid, then I know dk perpendicular, which is 1 by grad ke, de by grad ke, and so I can actually obtain the expression for density of states. Any questions?
Sir, a few slides ago you had spoken something about two-dimensional lattice. Could you explain that once again?
See, I told you that energy of particle in a box, cubic box, is given by h cross squared by 2m times 2 pi by L nx squared, 2 pi ny by L the whole square plus 2 pi nz by L the whole square. Nx and ny and nz are integers, right?
Yes.
So I can have a lattice of nx, ny, nz corresponding to integers like 0, 0, 1, 0, etc., etc. And then,
Sir, but nx, ny, nz will be three-dimensional lattice.
yeah, but for simplicity, I'm doing it only two-dimensional to show you. Okay.
So, and sir, what does 1 point corresponds to the value of nx, ny?
Yeah, or it corresponds to nx, ny, nz if it is three-dimensional.
Okay.
Okay. So if it is two-dimensional, it corresponds to a two-dimensional lattice and 1 point. If it is three-dimensional, then you have nx, ny, nz. And every nx, ny, nz corresponds to one energy value
Yes.
or one eigenstate.
Sir, and how did you get the distance as 2 pi L?
Because nx, ny, nz are integers, right?
Yes.
So if this is 0, this distance is 2 pi by lx, and this distance is 2 pi by ly, and this
Yes.
distance is 2 pi by lx, 2 pi by ly. These are the coordinates.
Okay. Sir, so
Okay.
we have to plot the distance and then, okay. Yes.
No. So now what happens is, in this entire square, you have only 1 point. Because every corner is shared by 4 in this case, and if it is a cube, every corner is shared by 8.
Yes.
Right? So the volume of the space that I'm looking at is 2 pi by L the whole cube. right? In 2 pi by L, the whole cube, I have only one allowed value of nx, ny, nz.
Only one. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so which means that in the K space, when I calculate the volume, okay, that volume divided by the volume occupied by state per state, volume per state, okay, gives you the total number of states.
Yes.
Okay, so
Correct.
volume of the shell, okay, and volume of the shell, if it is a sphere, is 4 pi k squared dk.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so that divided by 8 pi by cube by b, which is b by 8 pi cube, this one. But in general, the surface in a solid is not spherical. Okay,
Yes.
the constant energy surfaces are not spherical. So you have to find out, take two level surfaces and find the volume between these two level surfaces, which are differing in energy by a small amount dE. Okay, and that is given by the distance dk perpendicular into ds, so which is given by this integral ds dk perpendicular v by 8 pi cube is the volume of the is this volume. And how do you calculate this volume dk perpendicular? You don't know, right? Find out what is dk perpendicular. I use my expansion of E in the direction as you go perpendicularly from in this direction. Okay, the perpendicular direction. What is the value of dE? So ek plus dk minus ek is equal to dk perpendicular times grad ke, because that's the differential, and that's the Taylor series expansion.
Hmm.
Okay, so I can write down dE as, I mean, the dk perpendicular as dE divided by grad ke, this quantity. This is dk perpendicular. Because I got this dk perpendicular here. This is dE divided by grad ke. Okay. So when you want to find out the density of states, we just do this integration over the surface. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir,
Okay. I mean, I'm just preempting some things that you may learn in solid state classes later.
sir, which book do we have to refer to see this analysis?
This you can look at, say, for example, detailed solid state physics. Okay, there's one book that you can look at.
Sir, and in crazy we'll find grad.
Yeah, grad you will find about crazy.
Okay.
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 Anything else? Okay, so let me close it here.
No, sir.
Huh? It's okay. We can stop here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll stop here and continue on Wednesday. Okay then.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Okay, have a nice day.